I want you to envision two dogs. Now, the first is an absolute savage, a vicious wild beast that has no love for anybody or anything. And the second is a loving, kind, magnificent companion to man that would do anything for anybody or anything. Now, the only way in which either of these dogs can survive is obviously by being fed, right? And so, if you were to pick one of these two dogs to continuously feed for its survival, which one would you feed? You see, most of us would think to ourselves, well, of course I would feed, the righteous dog, right? The companion, the lighthearted, the loving one. Of course I would feed that one. However, in most of our lives, we desire to feed that one, but we also feel sympathy for the dog that is ravenous and savage and in essence cares for nothing and no one, the dog that would tear you apart in a heartbeat if it was let go of that leash. Most of us will continue to feed that one in the hopes that maybe if we feed it enough, then it will change. Maybe if we feed it enough, then it will start to care about us the way we are caring for it. Now, this is the way I view negative and positive thoughts. We each have the God given ability to choose either one at any given moment in time. And over a lifetime, we have been conditioned into certain belief systems, which is nothing more than thoughts that have been repeated time and time again. We've been conditioned into belief systems that can either serve us or disempower us. And at a certain point within our maturity, we have the decision, the conscious decision to make of whether we're going to feed the empowering thought or the disempowering thought, the empowering belief or the disempowering belief. Are we going to feed the first dog or the second dog, right? And again, most of us would say, in theory, on paper, that we would feed the companion, the loving dog, the kind-hearted dog. But in truth, most of us have fed the savage dog our entire lives. We have become so used to feeding that savage dog that it is basically all we know. And we believe that maybe if we feed it enough, maybe if we nurture enough, maybe if we give so much of our life force to this dog, then possibly at some point it's going to switch over. Now, it's not the case with either dog. I'm telling you, if you continue to feed the beast is only going to get bigger and it's only going to eat more people and more things. Negative emotions are the exact same. The more we feed the negative, the more we entertain the negative, the more we give our energy, our sustenance, our supply to the negative, the larger it becomes, the more dominant and predominating it becomes within our own life experience. And not only that, but when we feed the negative, the positive actually begins to deteriorate. The positive begins to shrink into a smaller and more decrepit form. The positive does not have any sustenance within it, and therefore it will eventually croak. And for many, their positive or their kind dog is suffering right now. Malnutrition, a lack of food, a lack of sustenance. It is basically in starvation mode. Meanwhile, the savage is grotesque. It is 350 pounds. It has been eating its entire life, and it has enough energy to dominate any situation. So, this does not mean that, you're out of luck, you're out of hope, that things are over for you if you find yourself with this kind of inequality going on, right? As a matter of fact, at any given point in time in our lives, we're able to switch over and feed one or the other, right? Many of us, we might have fed this dog 9 times and fed this one once. So out of every 10, we're feeding the positive once, but this one 9. So this one's still getting fed, but it's not getting fed enough for it to actually dominate and predominate. Now, I want to take you through the experiences and the experiments that I have taken myself through over a lifetime. Once I came to conscious recognition of my negative emotional states and then my negative thought processes, then my belief system as a whole, I realized that all it was and all it came down to was how much I was feeding one or the other. The power that we give to anything in life is based off of focus. Focus is the feeding factor of life. Focus is the magnifier of life. And anything we put our focus on, we magnify in its totality. Therefore, if I'm feeding negativity, I am magnifying the negative, and I'm continuing to magnify it until it becomes the predominating energy, the predominating state of my life, which is where most humans find themselves. They have magnified, they have fed the negative so much that all they can recognize is the negative. However, though the positive may not stand out, it may not seem even to be a viable option, it is always still there. Why? Because at our core, we are truly light beings. We are created by an essence, a God force that is greater than anything we could even anticipate, anything that we could consciously imagine up or conjure within our own minds. However, we still have to make a choice of which one we're going to feed. And so, in my own process, in my own self-evolution, in my own internal growth, in my own introspection, I realized that in order for me to eradicate the negative beliefs, it is not simply for me to say, no, that's a bad belief, but instead to switch my focus into the positive. And this sounds real simple, guys. Of course it sounds simple. And it should sound simple because it is simple. Most of us try to complicate things so we have an excuse not to do the thing. So once I allowed myself the God-given right to make my own decision and make my own choice, which we all have, and that was to be intentional about my thought process, then I was able to make a decision to actually feed the positive. Now, how I did that was not easy at first because I was not used to it. It was not easy because it had been so habitual, so built and ingrained in me to feed the negative that it took some work. It took some, to be honest, sometimes it took some real stressful work in order for me to choose the positive. Because when you're used to wrong for so long, when you're used to darkness, light even seems like a problem. When you're so used to chaos, peace seems like the issue. So I had to first build a different relationship with positivity, with life-bringing energy, with empowering thought processes, with empowering belief systems. I first had to build a positive relationship and connotation with it. And I could only do that in the same way somebody goes in the gym and first lifts and feels sore, but they know it's good for them. And instead of making an excuse that they don't want to feel sore anymore and something must be wrong so they won't go back to the gym, instead, I had to view it as this is the muscle growing. This is my muscle going into protein synthesis, right? Getting a little deep and technical for y'all, but the point is I had to recognize that this is actually serving me. Even though it hurts right now, even though it hurts right now, even though it's uncomfortable right now, it's actually serving me. When I was out of breath running after a long time of not running, I had to realize that even though I'm out of breath right now and this doesn't feel good necessarily, it actually is good for me. If you switch over a diet, if you were eating cupcakes every night and now you switch to broccoli, or cupcakes and you switch to carrots, all of a sudden the broccoli and the carrots are going to taste off. They're going to taste if something is wrong. They're going to bring a reaction within your body at first that it does not recognize. And so first, it will send signals to your mind saying something is off here. However, you must be willing to take the conscious control of your thoughts, which we all have the ability to do, and switch the relationship that you have. Again, most of us make excuses for why we feed the negative because it's become an addiction. It's become a habit. It's become the easiest path. Now we must make the decision to switch over to what might be at first difficult, however, is going to feed and sustain us. So, just like a workout, you feel the endorphins that rush through your body. You feel serotonin running through your body, what other chemicals involved rushing through your body after the workout. You're going to feel the same way with a positive thought. You know, it's not all going to be, terrible. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. There's going to be a reward for thinking in a positive way. Again, you just might not recognize it at first because it feels so strange. But if you looked at it from a perspective of this is actually serving and helping me, then you'll be able to recognize that, wait, this feeling is actually a positive feeling. It is a feeling that my body is responding well to. So, in order for you to first begin to switch those negative thoughts into positive thoughts, to overcome the negative thought, it is a little overcoming of it, is a stepping over. It is a rehashing and a coming to terms with something different, something new. And once you're able to fixate on a positive thought, and again, I could go through an entire myriad and list of, what's a negative thought, what's a positive thought, but you know what's a thought that's not serving you, that's disempowering, and a thought that is powerful and that is empowering you in your life. You know. It is merely taking the opposite of what the negative thought is and seeing what its exact and direct opposite story is. That's simple. And once you start to feed this story, it might start frail. It might start weakly. It might start even sickly. But the more you feed that thought, the more you feed it with your own focus and intention, the more you are going to see it become the dominant thought. It's going to become the bigger, stronger dog. And the more you feed, or the more you starve the savage beast, the more you starve the negative thought, the less power it will then have. So this is just a one-on-one. This is a basic, rudimentary, first level, beginner step towards transcending negative thoughts. I could get into laws of attraction. I could get into subconscious and conscious programming, etc. However, if somebody was just to take this analogy and move forward with it, if you were to take this seriously and dedicate yourself to simply making that shift, I promise you that you would see the drastic changes within your own life experience. I promise you, if you truly apply this. I'm not talking about the type of application where you read, where you think about it for a little bit, where you do it for 15 minutes, then you go about your day and you keep feeding, the other dog. I'm talking about a true decision, a conscious decision that this is all you will do and this is who you now are, regardless of how long it may take, regardless of how much work it may take. I promise you that results will start to come like this. It's just like the person who is committed to changing the form of their body will see it happen fast, even though they no longer care about the time that it will take. But the person who's concerned about how long it would take, who's looking, what people are going to say, what they'll have to do, if it will hurt, if it will feel, that individual is always looking at the clock. And they're spending more time focused on the clock than they are the actual work. And so they will not get the results. So I encourage you to take this first step forward and to ask yourself, which one of these two dogs am I going to feed? Which one of these two forces am I going to give my life force to? Because at the end of the day, it is only us who is living within our own skin. We are the only factor. We are the only change factor, change agent within our own lives. Nothing outside of us, nobody else outside of us can make that change for us. Nobody can make the decision for us. So, are you willing to take that step forward today? Are you willing to truly dedicate yourself to this process? And if you are, beautiful. Got something for you. You're like, oh, I knew he was going to try to sell me something. No, I'm not trying to sell you anything besides sell you on you. I do have a coaching program, but that's only for the dedicated. But I also do have something you can get to right now if you're looking for a step-by-step guide, which is an article I have written free of charge. You can just go look at it right now. An article that I've written out on how to reprogram your mind, how to make this shift and the transition right now in real time, and how to truly apply it. And I want to make sure that you read that article, you listen to this video every day until it becomes ingrained in your own mind that this matters, that this is something that is truly a priority. And once that shift happens, I promise you, you will see yourself transcending your old state faster than you could ever imagine. You're going to starve out that savage dog and you're going to start feeding the one that is truly the life-giving force. You're going to start feeding the one that is going to feed you. Namaste. Namasko. Aquarius. I am the child of the light. Glow. I'm raising the dead into life.